Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 26 minutes past 2.
Yes, Sir Tony Blair is sticking his nose in again and has urged Ed Miliband to abandon his clean power targets and slash expensive green levies.
Yes, the former Prime Minister's think tank, with his blessing, warned that a pledge to decarbonise UK electricity by 2030 was destroying industry and damaging households.
The Tony Blair Institute advised the Energy Secretary to focus instead on making electricity much cheaper to stop right-wing populists.
Well, joining us now is the Director of Net Zero Watch, Andrew Montford. Andrew, thanks indeed for joining us. I think this is a really fascinating shift that we're seeing in the sort of climate debate. You get a lot of people who are actually pro-net zero, and Tony Blair still says that he's pro-net zero, who are saying, actually, if we want to get to net zero, expensive energy is going to stop people from using electric cars or other sort of electric things that you need if you want to decarbonise.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I think we are at the threshold of a very big change in policy. Things are going extremely badly for Ed Miliband. Over the last couple of weeks, not only this report from the Tony Blair Institute, but we had energy company bosses in Parliament last week saying that even if the wholesale price of electricity fell to zero, we'd still have high bills because of all the renewables that Mr. Miliband wants to put on the grid. We've had the energy industry pointing fingers at the regulator saying it's their fault, and on and on and on. You know, it really is. I think we are sort of getting to the end of days here. And I think it's quite interesting. Ed Miliband seems to have gone to ground. He seems to be hiding. He knows that he's got no way of defending this anymore. When the industry's saying, look, prices are going up, no matter almost what you do now, then for him to stand there and argue that he's going to get bills down by £300, another story that seems to be unravelling, he hasn't got a leg to stand on, has he? So, I think we're going to start seeing some fairly major policy changes fairly soon. And Keir Starmer has hinted that maybe the Labour government will have to abandon that pledge. And I think that's very welcome for consumers, because it means that eventually the price rises will stop. They won't stop immediately, though, unfortunately. There is more pain to come.
Andrew, I mean, you don't need to be Tony Blair to realise that this is basically just common sense. You know, we are all struggling with the cost of living crisis, bills are going to go up, and we are going to be paying more for the green energy levies than we were told we would be. There's a surprise. They might have been, massaging the figures there a bit. But this has to happen now, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The problem is, if you want to power your economy of wind farms, you're going to need an awful lot of wind farms, and inevitably you will have to pay them to switch off when it's very windy as well. That ends up on consumers' bills. There's a huge amount of cost and a huge amount of waste, and yes, it's inevitably expensive. And we can see now that the lie, and I mean lie, they've been lying for 20 years about cheap renewables. They knew it wasn't true, but they just wanted to go down this route in a sort of a quasi-religious sort of. The lie's coming to an end. People have seen through it, and now they're going to have to put their hands up and say, yeah, we got it wrong.
I suppose this is one of the big conundrums for people like Ed Miliband. He staked his entire career off the basis of the Climate Change Act 2008, which he shepherded through Parliament, which has governed energy policy right through the last 14 years of Conservative government. It was a Labour bill, a Labour Act that was actually telling the government what its carbon budgets could be. And this independent so-called committee that sort of sat on top of it. I mean, this is all Ed Miliband's doing for the last, 20 years of policy. Is he actually going to admit that maybe he went too far, that maybe he designed it in the wrong way?
Yeah, I think heaven protect us from politicians who are trying to give themselves a legacy, because it's not just Ed Miliband, it was Theresa May as well. But I think it is going to be extremely difficult for Ed Miliband to back away from this. This is what he has staked his reputation on. And there is a real problem, I think, for the Labour Party, because I think Keir Starmer would quite like to get him out of the energy brief. And he tried to do it at the last reshuffle. But Ed Miliband has a huge amount of support in the Labour Party. And I think, frankly, if Keir Starmer tried it, then the left wing of the Labour Party would stake a leadership challenge, and Keir Starmer doesn't want to go there. So I think we are probably stuck almost in an impasse, and we're not going to be able to get out of it, frankly, until the economy becomes so bad that the capital markets step in and say no more.
Oh, Andrew, finally, once again, it seems to be that politics are being put before people again.
Absolutely, yeah. That's been the story of the last 20 years. It's politicians on a mission rather than doing the simple nitty-gritty of giving cheap, abundant electricity to the people of the UK.
OK, well, Andrew Montford, thanks indeed for joining us, Director of Net Zero Watch. Let's watch this space.
Yeah, indeed. OK, this is good.